Welcome to The Laundry, the podcast connecting AML, compliance, and financial crime to the real world. Or maybe it's more accurate if we call this one the dark laundry files. Let's face it, most kids dream of becoming YouTubers, footballers, and pop stars, not the day they're named Head of AML Sanctions at a Tier 1 bank. Many of us in compliance and AML have stumbled our way into this industry, but now that we found that we love the work and the impact it has on the world. So, where does the passion come from? I'm your host, Marit, CEO of Strise, and in this episode, we are asking how do you find a passion for compliance and regulation? We'll be discussing our different pathways into compliance, how you keep the fire burning when faced with challenges, and channeling that passion into creative solution in fighting financial crime. And to dive into this topic, I'm delighted to be joined by absolutely two legends in the field, Ray Blake and Graham Barrow, presenters of the Dark Money Files podcast. And the Dark Money Files, if you haven't heard of it, is the podcast shining a light into a murky world, and Ray and Graham have more than 3 decades of experience in all things compliance and regulation between them. So, welcome to the laundry, guys. What
Mm.
did you want to be when you were young?
Well, thank you for having us. First of all, I wanted to be an astronaut.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
A
wanted.
lot of kids want that.
I wanted to be an astronaut. I was born shortly before people landed on the moon. I don't remember the show, but of course I've seen it many times before and many times after that. And I used to watch that, thinking one day I'll go down that ladder.
Mm. And
It
Graham,
didn't. It
Well,
didn't happen though.
no.
Didn't
just
happen.
bizarrely, because we didn't know each other when we were born, I wanted to be an astronomer.
Mm.
Okay, almost the
So
same.
I was born before they landed on the moon. But yeah, I grew up in the 1950s when science was changing very quickly. And I was just absolutely fascinated by looking out at the sky at night and wondering about the moon and the stars
Mm.
and the planets
Mm.
and that. So yeah, I wanted to be, didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a professional horseback rider. But
Wow.
now
Okay.
we all find ourselves
Is
here
that
working in.
racing
You see, the
or
point is, you can be an amateur astronomer. You can be an amateur
Yeah.
horse rider.
It's
There is no path for me.
well, yeah, this morning, true story, I
Yeah.
noticed a group of schoolgirls are about to launch a near-Earth satellite. So it may not be quite an
No,
astronaut, but
no,
there
they're not
is.
going to ride on it. That's the thing.
No, it's
You
only
Yeah.
can
about.
buy a ticket on, Blue Origin and these
Well,
things
you
maybe.
may be able to.
But now we all find ourselves here working
Yeah,
in
We
AML and
do.
compliance. So let's dive into discussion about
sure.
passion, drive, and motivation and how that impacts the work. So, how did you both find your way into the world of AML and compliance?
So in my case, it was complete serendipity. I back in the day, I used to be just a contractor. I used to sell days of work, and I was due to do a piece of work for one of the very well-known Big Four consultancies. Not going
Mm,
to advertise them. And the day before the contract was due to start, it was cancelled. So they said, "We've got another piece of work if you'd like to do it. It's about training PEPs."
mm,
At that time in the UK, we had an investment product called a personal equity plan, and I thought they meant that, and I knew something about them.
Mm.
And it wasn't. It was about politically exposed persons about whom I knew absolutely nothing, but I needed to work. So I said, all right then. And I had about 3 days of intensive learning so that I could at least look like I knew what I was talking about. And that genuinely is how I started in anti-money laundering financial crime, because I needed to work and I mistook it for another piece of work entirely.
interesting. And how
Mm.
about you, Ray?
Yeah, similar story. I was contracting in matters around regulation, and when you go independent, and I've been independent since 1996 was the last time I worked for someone as an employee, and you go into independent working, into freelancing, thinking you'll get much more choice, and you'll be able to decide what you do and what you don't do. You actually get less choice because you have to do what people want, what the
Yeah.
market requires, and for the last 10 years or so, certainly, that's kept me busy in financial crime.
And it's so Graham. I first came to know you through your LinkedIn posts, very
Yeah.
passionate posts about
Yes.
fraudulent company creation
Yes.
in company's house, and some of them, they're both fascinating and entertaining and shocking, but
Mm.
all of them kind of have the passion kind of comes through the post. So how did you go from starting just some work on
Yeah.
PEPs into this passionate way, or this passion
I,
now? Where does the passion come from?
I was incredibly lucky, Marit. I mean, I think lucky, because that first piece of work I did, first of all, it was for a well-known private bank here in the UK, and they took the decision that they wanted the same person to deliver training to their entire staff everywhere in the world. So I spent 2 years flying to Hong Kong and Singapore and, Gibraltar and all just lovely Cayman Islands. So, well, this is nice. So that it was quite easy to get into that. And then when I was coming to the end of that, had a phone call from HSBC to say, "Oh, we need someone to do a bit of work. Come to us." And it was actually within a week I was in Mexico. So it was kind of scary because it was when they were in a lot of trouble in Mexico, but also, you know, if you've got a mind for it, it was just fascinating because you're actually in the heart of what was a really
Mm.
big news story. So I thought,
Mm.
"Oh," and I'm just a bit of a media tart, so it was like,
And just for the
I'll do
listener who
this."
might not
Yeah,
like, maybe they don't know the
yeah.
Mexico cartel and HSBC story. What
So
would be the
it was
brief?
part of a much bigger story, but the one that caught the news was that HSBC had been doing a massive amount of business in Mexico in effectively buying and repatriating US dollars, billions of them. And there's only one source of billions of US dollars in Mexico because you can't spend dollars in Mexico,
Mm.
but you can certainly buy drugs with them. So they were a massive drug money launderer. So, and they got fined $1.8 billion by the Americans for doing that. So they had to put things right. And rightly or wrongly, they said, nip off to Mexico and put it. It wasn't just me. I can't claim that. But I was part of the team that went out to Mexico to start
You could kind of
putting
see a
things
bit from the inside how
right.
it was
I
all.
had an armed guard for part of my work.
Really?
Genuinely,
I
yeah.
wonder how many AML compliance professionals now have an armed guard.
Probably not. But why
Yeah,
they sent
a
me up.
few.
I was probably indicative of HSBC because they had this big branch up in Monterey, which is right in the heart of drug cartel land. They said, "Well, we're not going to pay for all of them to come to Mexico City, so you can go up and train them up in Monterey." But you'll need an armed guard to do it. So okay. So off I went.
And how about you, Ray? Where does the
I went
passion
to
for the work come from?
Mexico City. I didn't get an armed guard.
Oh, you also went there.
Oh, not on that job. A little bit later with a different bank, but no. That was lovely. Where does the passion come from? Um, well, the passion comes from anger mostly. If you read one of my posts or one of Graham's posts, you'll find that some of them are quite light in tone and quite jocular. A little inside secret: the lighter in tone they are, the more anger we're trying to keep
Okay,
in.
I will look out for that.
Yeah, it's
Is
true.
that fair?
Yeah, absolutely fair.
Yeah.
And well, you both have mentioned going to Mexico, and you've been traveling the world, and
Hmm.
now you are doing the dark laundry files that has gathered a huge audience. But are there any like moments in your careers that truly stand out that give you motivation to this
Uh,
day?
moments.
Oh, I definitively know one.
Go on. Oh
So
yes,
I
give us your
I
moment.
wrote an article on LinkedIn in 2017, and I wrote it because I had stuff in my head and I needed to get it out of my head.
Mm?
And it was an article called "Who is Ali Moulay and Why Does It Matter?" And I just thought nobody would be interested. And shortly after that, I had a contact from two journalists from Denmark,
Mm?
where there's a newspaper called Berlingske, which I think is quite well regarded. And they said, "Oh, we've noticed your article and it actually crosses over with some work we're doing. Would you be prepared confidentially to do some work with us?" So of course I said, yeah, because that was two. And that was what became the Danske Bank
Mm.
scandal. And they were the journalists who broke the story of Danske Bank. So that was the point. It was like, this is fun.
Yeah.
This is just, how often do you get the chance to be
Mm.
ahead of the world knowing about our world knowing about one of the biggest kind of money laundering scandals ever.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, this is this is good fun.
You
So
found yourself in the midst of some of the big
I did, and then
stories.
because it was with the ICIJ, and so then I went on doing, Pandora Papers and FinCEN files and all sorts of stuff, and had an entirely unexpected career kind of working with the media, which has just been wonderfully good fun. And I'm not ashamed to admit I have a massive ego and I enjoy every minute of it. Yeah.
How about you? Do you have
No,
any
don't
standout
enjoy that at
moments?
all.
Yeah. Oh.
No, I'd rather be quiet. When we were considering this question, I instinctively knew what Graham was going to say, but equally I knew what I was going to say because my career highlights tend to be a little bit quieter. So I mean, I'll give you an example of one that came to mind when I thought about the question, which was. Um, when you are freelance, you miss out on a lot of the things that make employed life attractive. You don't get invited out. You don't have a leaving do or anything, that kind of thing. So occasionally, when I have a contract somewhere, and when I go, I like get a card and I get little gifts. I think, well, I've done something right, and those are the highlights for
Mm.
me. Not very exciting. Sorry about that, Marit.
No, it's that's okay. I'm
Well,
just
it is.
thinking about like
I'm
what I
jealous now because I've never had any gifts or cards or been invited out, even when I was employed.
Oh,
I'm thinking what I would have like for myself. Obviously, we do a lot of uh, marketing and media
mm,
stuff with Strise. We do the
mm.
laundry, all those things. But I think as well, my highlights are the ones that are. I mean, doing an episode like this is a big highlight for me. I
Oh,
wanted to
go
do it for
on.
such a long time, and I'm so glad we finally made it happen. Or another highlights if a customer is
Hmm.
successful with our product, or not
Yeah,
necessarily the flashy media PR stuff that we do, but
yep,
much more the like you say on the
yeah. It's more kind of quiet satisfaction than
mm,
excitement, isn't it, Marit?
yeah, and
Do you think?
also for instance, if the team has kind of pulled together, if we had a big
Hmm.
issue or something, that's always
Yeah,
the highlights.
excellent.
I think the teamwork
Hmm.
is a big
Makes
part.
the dream work, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, definitely.
You should put that on a
I
t-shirt,
should.
Graham.
But we're working in compliance and AML. I mean, we hear a lot from people who
Uh-huh.
we hear a lot about also, let's call them passion killers. People doing a lot of manual work,
Yeah.
sending in SARs after SAR that never gets like processed,
Mm-hmm.
sifting through false positives,
Mm-hmm.
or working in a company where there's no kind of tone from the top that favors
Yeah.
compliance, all kinds of like passion killers that could potentially drive people away from the industry. But what are your what gets you defeated on what gets you,
What?
do you have any passion
Yeah.
killers that you run
So
into?
yeah. So the times when you think, oh, do you know, I'd love to just pack all this in.
Yeah, what are those
Yeah,
moments?
I mean, I tend not to because um, I'm very keenly aware that the job that we do is quite a privileged one,
Mm.
really. Quite aside from events like this, which are lovely. It's great to talk to people and to communicate. In a kind of semi-public way. It's a fantastic opportunity. But I mean, also the ability to kind of work in a modern economy in pleasant conditions. Um, where we don't have to go out and trudge around in the rain. All of these things mean it's very difficult to be dissatisfied with your lot.
True.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And
agree.
and when we have done drudge work, because we do drudge work, a lot of the things that we do are kind of
Mm,
quite administrative in nature and quite tedious. Even on the worst day, we're not walking the streets in the rain, are we?
we're not. No, I mean, I think I'm just naturally kind of passionate about stuff anyway. But I think there are days when I wake up and just the enormity of what's going on in the world, in the
Hmm.
criminal world.
Mm.
There are days you just think, why do we bother?
What was the last
Why
time
do
you
we?
had such a moment? Like, what was it that?
I, I worked on a story recently, and it was about a group of criminals who were forging people's wills and stealing their estates, actually
Really?
stealing
Mm.
all of the money, so their families were being left with nothing. And And you realise that actually there was very little you could have done about it, and these people's lives have been materially destroyed. I
Mm.
mean, we're talking, I think we identified £17 million at least, but it's the human impact, and actually that the passion comes from that. The desire to do something to help people who are directly impacted by crime, but sometimes the enormity of what's going on and the very little that we can do to affect it can be a bit kind of, some mornings you wake up and think, this world's not a very nice place,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that's
True enough.
true enough. Maybe a little side note, but obviously I said it like your LinkedIn post, especially around fraudulent companies house companies, it's yeah, I've seen them a lot. Are there any what's the most recent development now? Is it
Right.
the same kind of patterns going on, or have the
Yeah.
criminals changed their
Oh,
tactics?
they change weekly, but we found a very interesting one over the
You did?
weekend, didn't
Oh,
we?
really?
Yeah, yeah. So it started with. I mean, one of the things that you need to understand is that between us, and sometimes both of us do the whole thing. We monitor every incorporation in the
Mm,
UK, every new company, and there's about 3,000 a day on average.
that's
And
massive.
yeah, we monitor the lot, and many of them we look at directly. And we've got. I mean, you can't look at all of them, so we've got
Of course.
some tech that says, these are the ones you might want to look at today. And one of the first ones that I looked at on a Sunday at the weekend, which is always a good day to look because there's not a lot of background noise. No one accidentally incorporates on a Sunday. So um, one of the ones that I looked at then was a huge capital company. It was, what was it, 100 billion or something
That's it,
ridiculous,
yeah.
which you don't often see. But it had shareholders, all of whom were slight misspellings of famous names in the crypto world. Like
Really?
Elon Musk, for instance, was one of them. There were a
But I
bunch of
think
them.
I think Satoshi Nakamoto got properly spelt,
Yeah, yeah.
because
Well,
no
that's
one would
true.
know how to spell it anyway.
Yeah. Well, no one's going to take issue with that,
Well, they're
are
not,
they?
'cause no, no.
Um, and so we well, I kind of delved a little bit and I thought, well, okay, so they've set up a company, fine. What else have they set up? So fairly quickly found a website that they'd set up um, that was offering services that said, we don't need any KYC, but we'll set up a company to give your meme coin legitimacy. So just type in your name here. Tell us what jurisdiction you want it in, and if you don't want to add your name, we'll assign you a name randomly, and we'll make up a date of birth for you
And an address.
and an address. And effectively, no questions asked. You can set up a company, and that was one of those moments where you think, "Oh, what's the point?" But
Oh,
the point was, if we can do nothing else, we can at least shine a light on that. So
definitely.
the post goes up,
Yeah.
people see it, and we know quite a lot of people who can make a difference do
Mm.
see our posts. So if we can do nothing else, we can at least do that.
And oddly, I shared that post of Ray's, and somebody said straight away, she said, "It just makes me so depressed because I had a company registered to my address by somebody from China." She said, "It took me a lot of effort, time to get rid of it, because you can do exactly what these people are saying. They can register a company in any name, at any address, with any made-up directors, with made-up dates of birth, and
Yeah, true.
at the moment, not for too much longer,
Yeah.
it just gets put on the register."
True. So, for people who might be new to the industry or
Uh-huh.
just coming into it, who might be sitting doing work and thinking exactly what you said, what's the point?
Mm.
Do you have any sort of advice for them in terms of, tips and tricks to keep the passion and motivation going and be, to see the long term in this industry?
If you work in anti-financial crime, um, and you do a good job, you will be saving people's lives. You may never find out who they are. You may never get any proof or evidence that you've done that. But trust me,
Yeah.
if you do a good job in anti-financial crime,
Mm,
any job in anti-financial crime, you will have saved lives.
mm,
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think it's incumbent on all firms to put some effort into contextualizing and reminding everyone who works
Mm.
there the reason they do it, and it is not to keep the regulator happy.
No.
It is to stop criminals from cleaning criminal funds through whatever bank or financial institution you work in. And those criminals will work very hard to do it.
Mm.
But if you can do your job to the best of your ability, as Ray says, that could be someone whose inheritance will still be there for them. It could be someone whose elderly parent isn't going to be sending all their money off to help somebody because they think, somebody's in distress, or they're a widower who thinks they found the love of their life,
Yeah.
and it's actually some young chap in Lagos enjoying fleecing you out of every penny you've got.
Yeah, I agree. I also find it so interesting that, or motivating as well, that so much of it's like compliance, regulations, it can sound so dull and boring and far removed, but actually there's so much of the work that just ties right back into
Yeah.
the real world and like world events
Yeah.
and societal trends.
Yeah.
It's just so impactful, and that keeps me motivated in
Yeah.
this industry as
It's
well.
highly relevant and important work, particularly with the world as it is today. If you think the world is absolutely fabulous as it is, then why would you get involved in financial crime? You probably wouldn't. Um, but if you think, there are things going on in the world that could be improved, there are
Mm,
people whose suffering you would like to do something to alleviate, then there are a few better careers to be in.
yeah, I
And
agree.
and the other thing is how much the landscape has changed, which makes it so much more important. When I was young, criminals would walk into banks with stockings on their heads and a sawn-off shotgun and rob the bank. Nobody does that anymore.
Mm.
So in a way, some of the policing has now shifted towards compliance people because so much of it is online, cyber, whatever, that's a really important additional role to play because the police can't do everything. They
No.
can't see everything. They don't have access. Very easy to see people walking into banks with sawn-off shotguns.
Mm,
Now you can steal from a bank and nobody sees it.
yeah, it's true.
And it used to be that the hard part of any criminal endeavour was committing the crime itself, because you needed to expose yourself. You needed to go out with a sawn-off shotgun and potentially be filmed and potentially be called to get the money. And it was the easiest thing in the world then, once you got the money, to kind of launder it and to go and spend it, because there weren't the structures, there weren't the rules and regulations. So the hard bit was committing the crime. The easy bit was enjoying the proceeds. Well, what we have done in the industry, to the extent that we've been successful, is we reverse that. It's comparatively easy to commit a crime now. Where we're making it hard is for the criminal to profit from that and to
Mm.
benefit from it. And criminals aren't stupid. If they can't make money undertaking criminal activity, they
They're
won't
not,
do it.
yeah, then they're not going to do
Why would
it.
they do it? Yeah.
It's true. I just find it so fascinating that, it's geopolitics and sanctions, it's
Mm.
fraud and individual people's lives, and it's
Yes.
just the specter of the like impact and activities you can do in this field is just so far
I
reaching.
agree. It's kind of fractal, isn't it? You look
Yeah.
at it at any scale at all, right
Yes.
down to the real micro, and there's work to do.
Yeah. I love that about the field, and
Yeah,
it fuels this like endless passion in a sense, because
yeah.
like everywhere you turn you can kind
Absolutely.
of tie it to the profession and
And
the development.
and
Mm,
requires such an enormous range of skills
Yeah.
that
mm.
virtually anybody could have some skill set that would be valuable to use in our world, whether it's because you're good at numbers and statistics or, identifying anomalies or talking to people. Everything can be utilized within AML, AFC as a skill which has value.
Mm.
So, I mean, I would say to anyone entering this field, there is scope to do what you're good at and what you like. Um, in this field, exactly as Graham said, if your thing is people, you'll find a very valuable role.
Mm.
If your thing is maths and tech and the geeky stuff, you'll find important work to do.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, that's also true, because I mean, uh, cultivating a compliance culture very much in the
Hmm.
people
Totally.
on the people scale of things. Now going more into automating, improving technology with AI,
Hmm.
very much on the tech math kind of side. So it's an industry that also caters to the broad spectrum of skill sets. So
Hmm.
wherever you kind of land on the skill set, creativity, you are welcome here.
Yes.
Yeah, completely. And you know, a good organization will exploit those skills.
Do you think that going forward that I mean all of us just ended up in the industry quite randomly. I
Yeah.
mean we've heard your stories. Myself, it was I'm a technologist
Mm.
and we worked with AI doing AI projects, and then we happened to do one with a bank who then
Yeah.
who said like, "Hey guys, you know, this project, yeah, it's good, but I think we should rather do something together on
Yeah.
KYC, know your customer. It's really complicated." And I was like, know your customer? You don't know who your
Yeah.
customers are? What do you mean? And then of course, getting into it, you understand, wow, this is
Yeah.
so complex. So that was kind of my backstory into this industry. So we kind of all of us just fall into it.
Yeah.
But do you think now going forward, the industry will be more, it will be more of like an active choice? People are choosing it
Yeah.
rather than just
Yeah.
falling into it, because that is not
Yeah.
only us, but there's so many people that I've spoken to
No.
have this falling into approach.
No, and I mean that will continue. I mean your story is evidence of that, Mara. Your story is so cool. I've read that before, and I love the way that you immediately seized the challenge and came into the industry. Compliance does that to people. You're a great example of it. Well, if I can give you an example, one of the professional organisations that I'm working with. Called Client Fabric has got a tie up with a university in India where they are building financial crime and compliance into advanced degree level courses. And we're working with the university to build those skills so that people can come out as fresh graduates ready to hit the ground running in the compliance field. So it is changing, yes.
Mm, very, very cool to see those
Yeah.
things happening. What do you think, Graham? Do you think we will have more active choosers rather than falling into?
I hope so. I mean, I'm always a bit careful because I'm very much at the tail end of my working life, I hope.
He's been
Um,
saying that for about
I
20
know, but
years, Marit.
I'm in my 70s. It's kind of, there's a point you have to say. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But I think what encourages me, and I'm sure this is also true for Ray, is that quite regularly I get messages either on LinkedIn or direct from people who said, I want to have a career
Mm.
in AFC. Can you, give me any pointers, any guidance? And it's always delightful. But oddly, just always say every time I get that, say yes. Find something that you're passionate about.
Mm,
It's all I can say is people say, how did you get to be successful? I don't, I find it hard to define success. I don't know about that, but all I can say is that I do what I do because I'm passionate about it, because I care about it. And I think, we all have to work,
yeah.
we all have
Mm.
to earn a living, but finding something you can do that you care about, find your passion, I think the fantastic thing about AFC is that there are so many elements to it.
Mm.
There ought to be somewhere you can find a passion.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone is welcome here. Easy to find something to be
Yeah.
passionate about. And
Mm.
it is a career path that caters to whatever your
Yeah.
skill set is. We need people, we need technologists,
Totally.
like we need
I
everyone.
think if you just go to somewhere like Netflix or Amazon Prime and look at the top 10 programs in whatever country you are, guarantee there'll be at least one or two major true crime documentaries. It might be The Tinder Swindler, or it might be, Narcos, whatever. Effectively, you're getting in on that world and you're getting a chance to influence it. So everyone loves watching true crime
Mm,
documentaries. We get to be part of it.
true.
Mm.
Uh but before we end this episode, we need to dish out some quick fire questions for you.
Ooh.
Uh so I'll say a sentence, you'll say the first thing that pops
Okay.
into your mind, the shorter the better. And we will go Ray first, Graham second.
Okay.
Okay.
What is the best piece of advice you've received in your career?
Um,
Quick
written
fire.
it down. I know.
It's not very
Don't
quick
worry.
fire, is it?
We'll get it in the edit. Don't worry. I did
Yeah.
write something down and I've completely blanked on it. Okay, yeah. So The customer may not always be right, but they're always the customer.
Well, that's a good one. Graham?
You don't have to be serious to take your work seriously.
Mm. Finish the sentence. The worst part of the compliance industry is.
The enduring belief by people who frankly ought to know better that some shiny thing is going to solve all of their problems.
Calling it an industry. So that just sums up pictures of people working away in a factory on a production line. We need to call it a compliance profession.
Mm. All right. And on the flip side, the best part of the compliance industry is.
That you can think of it as a team instead of an industry, so that whatever role you actually undertake in compliance or financial crime more widely, you are part of a team that goes beyond your own organisation.
Oh, I love that.
Much more so than if you're in IT or HR or any other discipline.
Yes.
You are working right across the industry.
True. Oh, I
as a
like
big
that.
team.
Now I'm visualizing it. It makes. Oh, I love that.
All of that.
Okay, what do you best part of the compliance industry is.
Just being able to make a difference in areas where difference needs to be made.
And finally, why does passion for this industry matter in the real world?
Because our job is to prevent people who deal in death, despair, deceit, and lots of other things that begin with a D, daily.
Mm.
And when we do a good job, we are getting in the way of their plans and messing with them and preventing that. And why wouldn't you want to do that?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, like I just said, we all have to work, but finding a passion will make you better at what you do. And the better you are at what you do, the more you will be able to help people who could otherwise suffer significant losses if you don't.
Hmm.
Love the answers. And that brings this spin of the Dark Laundry Files to an end. Ray and Graham, thank you so much for joining me. Finally, I'm so glad we can make this happen. Where can people find and connect with you?
Well, I think you've already
Well,
they won't find it hard to track me down on LinkedIn
Yeah.
because I think it'd be fair to say I'm a prolific poster of stuff.
yeah, we're both around on LinkedIn. I don't know if people know this, but we do a podcast as well. They can
Do
listen
we?
to us
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think most people know about
We've
it.
talked about this, Graham.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not hard to find.
And thanks to everyone who was tuning in, listening, spending this 30 minutes with us. If you've enjoyed this episode, check out our back catalog of more than 130 episodes and follow The Laundry on your podcast platform of choice. So, and also please share the podcast on your social media channels, tell a colleague about it, drop it in a group chat, maybe give us a 5-star rating. It really helps other people to find us. If you got something interesting you want to share with us, comment on our LinkedIn page, my LinkedIn page, or email us at laundry@strise.ai. Also, we love doing this podcast crossover, so get in touch if you have a podcast we should be working with. Your host for this episode was me, Marit, our producer was Matthew, editor was Dominic, engineer was Nicholas, and The Laundry is proudly produced by Strise. Visit strise.ai for more information. See you next time.